Hey everyone, how's it going? So, a lot of you seem to be really responsive and responsive in a positive way from the multi-track mix of the Surrender to Eden set at Sherman Theater. And I figured, why not give you guys a breakdown of everything going on with that mix? So, also, it could be a chance to test the new Rumble and Twitch live stream situation going on. So, seems like everything is going smooth sailing so far. So, that's good. Let's just get right into it then. So, here I have the session. And oh, is the display already too big? Okay, hold on. Let me fix this real quick. Good Lord Almighty. You would think that the aspect would change. You would think that the aspect ratio would remain the same, but nope. All right. That's what happens when we switch from 4K to 1080p recording. Let's make me a little smaller up there. Okay. There we go. That'll work. All right, so I have Logic Pro loaded up here. And let's just go exploring with what we got. So my drum tracks, I have 2 functional kick drums, and I have them bust out to a kick bus. I have snare, hi-hat, octobans, 5 toms, which are then bust out to a tom bus. These split P green looking tracks, it's a snare reverb. This is a gated 80s snare sound. I have tom and snare reverb, and I have a parallel compression. I got my 2 overheads, which are bust out to an overhead. And all of these tracks are bust out to a drum bus. Here's my bass track, which is then bust out to the bass bus. I have every instrument category group. Drums, bass, guitar, keys, vocal, instrument, and then everything's going to the mix bus. Here is my guitar track. It's only one stereo guitar. I have 2 keyboards, which are bussed to the keys bus right here. John vocal. This is the main lead vocal, which is then bust out to a reverb and ping pong stereo delay. I have Johnny and Mike backing vox. These are the backing vocals of the songs, which are then bust out as well to a like a stereo, twangly effect. And these are also blended to the main vocal verb. And then I got 2 room mics, which are bust out to the room, which this is then going straight to the mix bus. And this track is irrelevant and is actually not needed, so let's delete that. So this is how I have all my sessions organized. This is how I have just about every session I will mix organized in my DAW. And yeah, it's pretty simple and straightforward. So let's get to the I think we should start with the final product of what we have, and then we can break down everything from raw to build up. So let's go to a song called Seek. This was the second song of the set, and I'll play it from the second chorus through the bridge into the first solo. Right. So it sounds really nice, full, and loud. There was one person who commented on the premiere of the video that the toms are lifeless. I don't even know what the fuck you mean by that. I mean, you can't please everyone, but I think when someone says drums are lifeless, they actually what they really want is to hear everything sampled, replaced. So I don't sample replace anything. What you hear is what you get. So let's turn everything off, right? Let's turn everything off, and then let's hear everything raw. Obviously, the levels and the leveling of everything is not going to be, exactly the same. But let's hear that section again with everything as is, completely raw. I mean, it still sounds great. I mean, the number one thing that I always get from people is how to get a good sounding mix. And the simple answer is a good source is going to get you a good mix. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. If you don't have a good source, you're not going to have a good mix. So let's just start breaking down what I added on. All right, so let's start with let's solo the drums. So the first thing I did with every single track is I put on auto align. And what auto align does, let's zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. What auto align does is it analyzes all the waves, all the sound waves going on, so that what you can do is basically have everything correctly in phase with one another, so that you don't get a single instance of phase cancellation. Drums aren't sounding as flat as they would be because of phase cancellation. The space between all the performers on stage and the room mics, I calculated was around 50 feet, but this this auto align helps fix everything. So that's the very first thing that I do. Let's actually solo this section here so that we can have a clear section to go back and forth to for reference. So you heard everything without auto align. Now here's going to be that same section again with auto align on. Everything just automatically, everything just comes together so much better with auto line on. And that's always the first thing that I do when I mix any instrument with multiple microphone inputs is put on auto align, and that solves all my phase cancellation issues. So let's put on just that middle section with all the toms going on so we can start adding on my processes to my drums. So with the with the kick bus, what I did was let's start with one instrument at a time. Which, by the way, if you're soloing stuff, if you're mixing stuff and you're soloing stuff, I highly suggest that you don't put on don't solo tracks unless you're like microscopically editing stuff. Just don't solo stuff, because what sounds good in solo won't sound good in context of everything. So I made all my decisions with everything playing at once here. So let's solo the I'm just soloing stuff for reference. So here's my kick drum process. So let's go with the first thing I did. Let's hear it raw, and then I will put on my first effect, which is a silencer from Black Salt Audio. Took care of all the bleed from the outside, and yeah, there's a couple of snare hits that are in there. I mean, there's nothing you could do. The microphones were placed exactly where they should, and there's just a little bit of snare bleed. I mean, that's the thing with recording live drums. You're not going to get rid of all the bleed. The object is to reduce the bleed. So next, I had the Neve 1073 preamp that just gave the kick drum a little bit more life. So I have the high shelf here, boosted up just a little bit. I have, where is it, 3.2K, boosted just a little bit. And then I had a high-pass filter rounded off from 50. And that just gave the kick drum just a little bit more life to it. Next, every track basically has this same EQ on it. I love how this sounds. It's the SSL 4K E from SSL themselves. This isn't the Waves version of it. So I have a 7.5K shelf around 3, just so the kick just cuts through a little bit more. Taking out 440, 450, around 5.5 dB. And that's my only other EQ change there. So here it is before off, and then I'll turn it on. Next, I have the SSL native drum strip. I have the low frequency enhancer. Basically, it works a lot like the transient sharper, only for the low end though. So I have about 23% of that added on, around 61, 62, just to give a little more oomph in the low end. And then I have a transient sharpener on at 15% at 0.5 speed, just to give the kick a little bit more oomph and punch. Next, I have the Empirical Labs Distressor. This is my favorite compressor for just about any drum. I love how this thing sounds, and I have 4-to-1. Attack is set at 5. Release is set around 2. I want a fast release, but not too fast of a release. And I'm doing maybe on average 4 dB gain reduction. Not a lot of gain reduction on this. Not a lot of compression going on. And then I have a Pro Q3. I'm boosting around 3 dB of 62 hertz, and I'm taking out 3 dB of around 104 because, and I'm fast forwarding to bass real quick. After my bass processing, I have that same exact EQ, just I have 104 boosted on the bass, and I have 62 taken out on the bass guitar, so that when the kick and the bass are together, you can see this is so they get more blended with each other, along with a compressor on the bass guitar to duck whenever the kick drum hits by like maybe 1.5 dB tops. And that's how you get the low end mixed in nicely. So there's that. That is my kick drum processing. All right, let's go to snare drum because there's a lot going on here. So here's a snare drum completely raw. That's the Beta 57A doing its magic. Incredible amounts of separation from the drum and the hi-hat cymbal. You barely hear anything else in that snare drum track. But nevertheless, you do still have a tiny bit of separation. So the first thing I add on is silencer, which you guys know what that does by now. Next, I have the 1073 again. And here are my settings for the snare drum. High shelf boost and high pass at 160. And that's it. That's all that I got going on with this guy. So play it raw, then I'll turn it on. Next is the SSL native drum strip. And all I have are the low and high frequency enhancers going on, just to give the low and high end a little more kick to it. Next, I got the 4K E, 8K boost around 3, around 5, 5.5, taken out at around 600. And then I turned the bell on the low boost, and then I boosted 2.5 dB at 200. And I think what I'll do is I'll just turn on each effect one by one at the end instead of just playing it on and off. So next is my secret weapon for snare drums. If you have the Slate Everything bundle, you have the virtual mix rack, and this is amazing. I love how the FG Bomber adds oomph to a snare drum. So the secret is turn the intensity up to 50, set the tone setting to fat, and then just turn the drive until the snare hits right there, and then you got a fat as fuck snare drum. And then I have the trimmer here just taking a little bit off to have gain control. Next is my favorite snare drum compressor. Even though it is a bus compressor, it sounds awesome for snare drums. This is the API 2500. Slowest attack ratio is 4. Release is fastest. And knee is hard. Detector is loud. And then I have just a tiny, tiny bit of gain from that. And I'm making sure the needle hits between 0 and 1 just to help sculpt it out better. And then I finish it off with the drum leveler. This is basically to help control an analog drum set to have consistent hits in velocity speaking terms. What this does is essentially takes whatever signal, if it's too high, too low, and it just evens everything out. So this is another secret weapon I have with drums. So let's play the snare drum as is, and I will slowly turn everything on. All right, now let's turn on everything that I got going on with the buses. So first things first is this gated snare reverb, and basically you can do this with the preset. I of course modified it a little bit, but you start out with the gaty 80s drums preset, set your pre-delay a little bit up, take out a little bit of the low end. Yeah. Set your pre-delay to what sounds good. Set it to around just under 400 milliseconds. And then send your snare drum to it. So this is bus 13. Let's turn on bus 13. And see what that sounds like. It sounds crazy solo, but in the context of all the drums going on, this really helps get that snare to cut through. All right, let's go to hi-hat. This microphone I used was the Octava MK012, And really the only thing I did with the hi-hat was high pass it to a little over 450. That's all I did with that hi-hat. Let's go to octobans and toms. So I'm only going to show one of them, but I did the same exact process for every tom track. I have the silencer, and then I have the instance of the 4K-E. So here is the octoban channel. Took out a little bit, 2 dB around 4K, because these were cracking just a little too much. And I scooped a little bit more of the mids here, around 550 at 6. Each tom was a little different, but the process is essentially the same. Tom 2, Tom 3, Tom 4, Tom 5. So there's Tom 5, which was the rightmost floor tom. Second rightmost floor tom. There was a lot of gross stuff in those mids that I had to take out. And then I have to boost on Tom 3, 3.5K at around 6. Tom 2, around 4 dB. So let's turn on the toms. And some of you are probably going like, well, you could have, made the toms cut through a little bit more. And truth be told, I probably could have. But take a look at the octoban specifically track here. And you will see that apart from this bit where I manually adjusted the gain here, there's really not much here distinguishing this track from the snare. So I have to work with the snare bleed that came from the first octoban, Tom 1 and Tom 2 tracks. So Tom 1 and Tom 2, they basically act like secondary snare mics. So if you go through the rest of the set, look at all these snare hits right here. I mean, you could tell where the tom hits are, but look at all the snare hits that were bleeding through. And this basically comes down to separation of the toms between the toms and the snare. And I could have angled the if I'm like really criticizing myself here. What I could have probably done is, like, let's say if this external hard drive is the top of the tom and the snare drum's right here. If the tom is like here and the snare drum's here in relation, I came in this way with the microphone. Where in reality, I should have done this. But the problem with that is if I mic'd it that way, the microphone would have been too far up and it would have hit his cymbals. So you got to work with what you're presented with the drummer. And I'm not saying that this is Russ the drummer's fault. It's just clip-on mics probably would have been better than full-size SM57s. But you'll see, but you obviously can see down here, these 3, 4, 5, these are the MD421 compacts. So yeah, there's some snare bleed right here, but take a look at the tom hits. I can easily put a noise gate on these and be okay. Tom 1 and 2, I was gonna go through. If I really, really wanted to, I could have gone through all of this, and every instance of him hitting each of these, I could have just isolated them. But what that also would have happened is if there was a snare hit or anything that came with the the edited portion of that suddenly coming through, that would have been a spike in volume. So I'd rather just stick with what we got and work with the snare bleed, and it actually helped make the snare pop through a whole lot more. So in that instance, I chose to have, for lack of a better term, I chose to have the toms be a little less dynamic with that, and worked with what I had versus like isolating them to just like, if the kick, snare, and overheads were going like at certain levels, and then all of a sudden like the spike in volume from the toms, I'd rather have the spike in the toms come through, knowing that like a whole track is behind them. I don't know. Maybe I'm not explaining it good enough, but that's just what I chose. But anyway, let's and then all the toms are sent to this Neve 1073. Again, just a little bit more high-end boost there. And 3.2, just a tiny bit of boosting there. And then high pass at 80. And then these are sent through the virtual mix rack. The Slate Custom Opto compressor is around 9 o'clock. Ratio is 4.2. Speed is 4.6. Preset is set to warm tone. And then I'm compressing just around 3. I have a little bit of high end and low lift, and then the trimmer for gain control. So I will add everything on slowly as I play the tom tracks. All things considered, what a stark difference between raw going in and coming out processed. These toms and the snare are bussed out to 2 other buses, so let's turn these 2 on, as well as the kick. This bus that is tom, snare, verb. This is the capital chambers, and I have it set to room or setting 4. Maximum reverb, maximum decay, with the pre-delay around 40-something milliseconds. And the high-pass filter is 750. So I will add that on, and then we'll do my parallel compression. And then finally, we have my parallel drum compression. This is taking all my close mics and squashing the shit out of them. That's it. Input is all the way up, so you get the maximum like analog distortion effect from this. It's an 1176 AE limiting amplifier, and slowest attack, fastest release, and yeah, I'll play it, and then I'll add it, then I'll turn it on. The only final thing that I have on the drum bus is the SSL X limit. And basically what this does is any huge spike of a transient that just happens to cut through everything, and everything is not like nice and perfectly even, this just takes off the 1 dB tops of anything like that spikes and goes through. So this is just to control the peaks. And this is another instance of parallel compression, but I have this only like 10% in the drum mix. So again, slowest attack, fast release, and I'll play the whole drum part, and I will turn everything off, and then I will slowly turn everything back on. Oh, I totally forgot about the overheads. So overheads, same thing with the hi-hat, high pass at 308, and I have the 1176 set up where it only has gain reduction when the snare drum is hit. And that's about like 1 to 2 dB of reduction, because I want the punchiness of the snare drum to come from the snare mic, not the overheads. So I will play the drums completely raw, and I will slowly add everything on. Yeah, that's great. That's excellent. What a stark difference. And Bryce from NZ checking in, saying nicely tuned toms. So thank you for that. Yeah, Russ, the drummer, is not necessarily the best when it comes to playing to a click track. But then again, what drummer is? But one thing Russ can do is tune the shit out of his drums. So I give him all the credit in the world for doing that. And yeah, his drums sound great. I'm very happy with that. Zaravla 5443 checking in on Twitch. Crazy what mixing can do. 2 fire emojis. Yeah. Time and patience, people. That's all it takes to get a good mix, and also to have a good source. All right, let's move on to bass guitar. So, bass guitar is the easiest thing in the world to get right. You need to watch out for 2 things. 1, you need to remove any offending boxiness from the bass, and you need to get it sitting right with the kick drum. That is it. Let's see. Let's go to main verse part. By the way, I also want to showcase here for just 2 seconds here. Turn off the drum bus, turn off everything. These are the overheads completely raw. Those drum overheads sound so good. God bless the Lewitt 140 Airs, because those things are the best overheads I've ever used, period. They sound incredible. So bravo to Lewitt. You guys built the shit out of some microphones. All right. Let's go down to the bass guitar. So it sounds good raw, which means it's going to sound good processed. So I'm going to go through every single one of these in order of what's going on. So bass guitar, starting off with the 4KE EQ. The only thing I did, taking out 7 dB of 250 hertz. It sounded really boxy, and it was clouding up those lower mid range, and I also want the snare drum to punch through there. Next is the distressor. Attack is between 3 and 4. Release is 1. 4-to-1 ratio, and I'm looking between 5 to 7 dB of reduction. Next is another compressor, but this is side chaining the kick drum, meaning this will only activate when the kick drum is hit. And I'm looking for 1.5 dB of gain reduction tops. And then circling back to what I had with that Pro Q3 with the kick drum, I have this same exact EQ on the kick drum, except mirrored. So 104 hertz, I boosted it on the bass guitar. I took it out of the kick drum. Here on the bass guitar, I took out 62 hertz. I boosted 62 hertz on the kick drum. So that is all of my channel processing for the bass guitar. And now I'm going to add everything on slowly to see what those effects do to the channel. So now let's hear everything with the drums and the bass. Fully processed, everything on drums and bass. All right, now we got the foundation of a song. Now we can start adding shit to it. Let's go to guitar. And guitar, this one is incredibly easy because Ron, the guitar player, has everything dialed in at the source at his direct input. So I get just a stereo track of everything that he does. So he's got a main, he's got 3 tones. He's got a main distortion rhythm tone. He's got a lead tone. And then he's got a clean tone. So I'll play each of them individually. So this is his main distortion tone. Again, completely raw out of raw out of the recording. His lead tone. And his clean tone. So once again, good source equals good mix. I really cannot emphasize that enough. The musicians make the mix more than the engineer ever will. All right, so the only two things I have going on with the guitar track, I took out a little bit of 2.5K, and I have a multi-band compressor only focusing on the low end, so when he does his dot, 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 and his chugs, this will compress it just so it doesn't muddy up the guitar sound. And that's it. That's all I have going on with his guitar. So for the sake of context and, doing the same thing for every source, I will play it during, and I'll play it raw, and I'll slowly turn everything else on. All right, and now for the sake of context, drums, bass, and guitar, all three at once. All right, we are getting somewhere, guys. Next is basically, apart from John's vocal, this is really the voice of the band, and that is Johnny's keyboards. So the two keyboard tracks are right here. They are just bussed out to my keys bus. And I have just a little bit of EQ and a low-pass filter at around 14K. So let's get to a part where the keyboards are very dynamic, which is the bridge of the song Seek. So a lot of natural reverb and a lot of openness comes from those keyboards. So let's play that section again with drums bass guitar, and I will add in the keyboards just so you guys see, like, hear for yourselves what a difference that the addition of the keyboards do to the whole sound of this band. So what you're probably, and what I'm hoping you notice, is there's barely anything going on my end. This is just about almost all the band. Let's move on to vocals. And this one was fairly straightforward and very easy. Again, because I have competent musicians to work with. Let's unsolo everything. Here is John's vocal, completely raw as I got it in recording.
The light of the morning, the dream's always there. The madness is dawning. Oh, your soul's in despair. Your name is a calling. Oh, forever with a yeah.
So you'll hear that he's got a reverb going on with his vocal. So that's burnt in. He has a not anymore for, you know, the stream. I'm gonna we figured it out that we're just gonna get a XLR splitter so that I get the raw, completely dry tracks for front of house and the recording, and he gets his reverb on his little board that he's got, so he can hear the reverb that he likes. So win-win. That's we made a note of that, me and the band, for Florida. But for now, it sounds fine. Like, there's really nothing wrong with it. So let's get going with my vocal processing. So let's load it up in order of everything that is going on with his vocal. Everything going on. All right, let's start from, I'm going to go in order of which the signal is flowing here. So first things first, I have a Pro Q3, just taking out a little bit of offending frequencies from John's voice. Next, I have the Sorcerer, which this basically acts like the source extractor on the Wing Kompact. This is an amazing, this is an incredible noise gate. I love it, and it gives the right amount of reduction in background noise and still leaving the source intact. So I love it. Next is the de-esser. Pretty straightforward what a de-esser does. Next is light compression with the LA2A. This I'm going for between -1 and -2. -3 at the absolute peak of gain reduction. And then finally, we're finishing off with the distressor. Very fast attack, very fast release. This is just to control the peaks. So put it all together, and this is what his vocal change sounds like, with everything slowly being added one by one.
The light of always there. The madness is dawning. Oh, your soul's in despair. You ain't in, it's a calling. Oh, forever we're there. The soldiers are rolling. The magic's in the air. The light of the morning. The dream's always there. The madness is dawning. Oh, your soul's in despair.
Right? What? Oh, that's pretty significant difference in sound. John's vocal is sent to a reverb, which again is capital chambers. Same thing with the with the drum reverb. Basically same process. I have it set to 7. The filter is just about maxed out around 750. And I have just a basic EQ just to take out the muddiness from that reverb. So I'll play his vocal, I'll add it on, and you'll hear what happens.
The light of the morning. The dream's always there. The madness is dawning. Oh, your soul's in despair. You ain't in, it's the calling. Oh, forever we're there.
I love John's voice. The dude can fucking sing, and I love. I just love that. The only thing else that I did with his vocal is add on this delay. Now, I have this set up so every song has a different stereo delay just to go with the tempo of the song. So for this song was a steady at 500 millisecond delay. This is what I do at Dingbats all the time when you see me pushing the delay to just match the tempo so that when the vocal comes in and it ping-pongs back and forth, it matches the tempo. So I did that with every song, and I mainly got this effect on here because in the very beginning of this song, he does the he does a vocal crescendo of like, ooh, he does that. So I believe it's right here. Yes. Okay. So I have it automated. I don't know if you noticed the fader move here, but watch this fader down below here. So as it's moving along, I increase the volume of the delay. That's the only volume automation going on. So, turn on the repeater, and now you'll hear it. You'll hear the effect.
You guys ready? Lost in a vision.
Love that. I just I mark out every time he does that. Like I'm just mesmerized when someone can like go that high and like really, really go. So again, every song I just adjusted the delay on this, but that's with everything. Now let's go to John and Mike's backing vocal. Pretty much straightforward with everything else. With John's lead vocal, took out some offending stuff that I didn't need. And then I got the de-esser going on. Again, LA2A. But what separates their vocal from John's is I have the vocal doubler from iZotope. I believe this is a free plugin, and it sounds awesome, especially if you want to do some trippy shit with your vocal. So let's play their backing vocal raw as is with all the other processing on it, and then I'll add on the doubler because we get trippy when this is on.
Free me, seek. See me, heal me, seek.
All right, so these vocals are bounced out to the reverb, and then these are bounced out to another bus where we have another instance of the vocal doubler, and then we have the repeater. So then we have real trippy shit going on.
See me, heal me, seek.
It sounds weird, isolated, but turn everything off. Not turn everything off, turn everything else back on. And then we get this. Right? Sounds pretty full, wide, and weird, but awesome. So the only other thing that I have going on is my room, and I took out high pass at 345, low pass at 10,000 roughly, and I have just a little bit of the room noise coming into the full mix. Play a little bit with the room off and then turn it on. First off, let me get my vocals back down to where they should be. And that, folks, is how we do that. The only other thing that I have going on with the instrument bus is a trick I learned from Streaky. And basically this helps separate the vocals from the instruments. This essentially is working like a sidechain compression in EQ form. So basically anytime the vocals are going on, these frequencies right here are reducing in gain by like 2 dB. And these are the key frequencies of the vocal. And you EQ match, you eliminate everything below 100 hertz, everything that's below the threshold, and everything that's like really much up here, which were just these 3 frequencies. Thin out the Q, bring it down, and then you basically turn on sidechain compression mode. Streaky has a short on his channel that I could show you in detail of what it does, but that basically helps get the vocals to just cut through everything else. All right, we are done with the mix. So now let's go through the the mastering process. So here are my master bus processes, and there's a lot of stuff going on here, and each of these are a significant each of these are a significant like increase in the overall like sound, vibe, everything. So let's start firsthand what's going on here. Let's start with my go-to mastering bus EQ. This is the Eosis Air EQ. This is included in the Slate Everything bundle. Low cut is set to 30 hertz. High cut is 17, 6 dB of gain reduction each. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 12 dB of gain reduction per octave each. And I have the earth and the air, which basically adds a little more oomph to the low end, a little more crispness on the high end. Gives it a nice overall sound. Next is the SSL native bus compressor. 30 attack, auto release, ratio 2. Get it so everything's hovering between 2 and 4. Glue everything together. This guy basically is like the enhancer on the Wing Compact. This gets the bass and the low end tight. This increases a little bit of the mid and high EQ, and it just the things that this does to my overall sound. I can't finalize a track without this plugin. Like, this is my, once you figure out how to use it and figure out how to like get it sounding good, hearing it without and then with it on, game changer. And then this is my secret weapon as far as getting a really nice full master. This is the Capital Mastering Compressor. This is included with the UAD Spark. Set the threshold down with a slow attack, fast release, and you want it just kissing it, -1 dB. And then I have the saturator on to give a little bit more oomph and saturation to the overall mix. And then that is fed to, where is it? The limiter, where I only have an increase of 4 dB, and I only watch out for the, I don't squash the shit out of my masters. I would rather have a lower in volume, but you hear all the dynamics, than squashing the shit out of it and not hearing dynamics. So I do not participate in the loudness wars. So what I do with this is I increase the gain until I start seeing -2, -3 dB of gain reduction on the spikes, which are always from the drums. So I have it so I have it set between 1.5 tops, and I put it on the punchy setting, and then the limiter just does its thing. So let's turn everything slowly on, and then we'll go from there. So it will get louder, just FYI. And that is how we do that, guys. That is the complete breakdown of my entire mix settings from the Surrender to Eden Multitracks at the Sherman Theater. You can watch the whole set on my channel using the same exact settings that I just showed you. Before I go, I wouldn't be remiss to introduce the newest member of my household here. I don't know if you could see him right here. I'm probably going to make him very grumpy by picking him up. This, my friends, is Elvis. I rescued him from a kill shelter in North Carolina. His previous family lost everything in the floods, and this little dude was picked up as a stray. And I noticed that he was scheduled to be euthanized if no one adopted him, and I'm the only one that showed interest, which is sad because no one wants a black cat for some reason, but I feel his tail getting a little fidgety, so he's probably very grumpy right now, but yep. Everyone, meet Elvis. This is my little buddy. Sorry for waking you up, buddy. Rolling, guys, 48,000, and thank you as always for the support. Thank you for everything. And I will catch you in the next stream, which will be this week. We finally have bands coming back to Dingbats that I'm working. So I will have the stream loaded up and everything ready to go right there. So I'll have to promote someone to be a mod in the Twitch chat so you can handle all the spammers that would inevitably come in. So, but yeah, we rolling, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.